Greetings and welcome to the Inner Mileage channel. My name is Dr. Nanajisi. I'm a transformational coach here at Inner Mileage, where we help folks transform, heal, and live their best lives right now, right here. Today I want to talk a little bit about the empath's role in ending generational trauma. In fact, generational trauma is the hidden thread that ties us to the unhealed wounds of our ancestors. It's a legacy of pain etched into our DNA, shaping how we experience love, fear, and resilience. Today, we'll explore how this trauma silently steeps into our lives, creating patterns and behaviors that we may not even understand. And neuroscience and epigenetics confirm that trauma can alter gene expressions for up to 7 generations. While ancient spiritual teachings reveal that the empath's role in breaking this cycle is really pivotal and actually a key part of the empathic life journey or life cycle. So why is it that some of us, the sensitive ones, feel called to end these patterns, even at great personal cost? And I can attest to that. Through insights from research, psychology, and even the research and work of Dr. Gabor Mate, a really renowned Vancouver-based psychotherapist, will uncover the empath's transformative journey of healing, a journey that's not just about reclaiming our own lives, but reshaping the destiny of those who come after us. This is the empath's path to healing trauma, a legacy reimagined from pain to resilience and overcoming. So let's talk a little bit about the science of generational trauma. So generational trauma stems from severe challenges that our ancestors faced. And trauma is more than just a psychological root, it has biological roots. In fact, research from the National Institute of Health, NIH, and studies on Holocaust survivors, for example, reveal that trauma reshapes gene expressions, your gene expression in your body, allowing survival instincts to pass from generation to generation. And in fact, in a really key study done at Mount Sinai, children of Holocaust survivors exhibited alterations in hormone regulations, in fact, mirroring the parents' biological responses to trauma. In other words, these were people who didn't experience the Holocaust or the trauma, but they did exhibit direct signs like they had experienced it themselves. And these changes are called epigenetic markers. In fact, they don't alter the DNA sequence itself, but affect how genes express under stress. So this biological inheritance creates a pathway through which trauma-related responses can last up to 7 generations. And in fact, neuroscience confirms that trauma reshapes the brain structure, particularly in areas like the amygdala, responsible for fear and threat response, and the hippocampus, which processes memory. These altered structures prepare future generations to react to danger, even if the original trauma is a very distant memory. So going further, how does trauma manifest in family dynamics? Trauma doesn't just pass down biologically, it embeds itself in family behaviors, beliefs, and patterns. So the work by Dr. Mate, as I've referenced earlier, explains that trauma not only alters individuals, but the entire family system, creating coping mechanisms and emotional barriers that can persist as unspoken norms. In fact, to support this, a study in 2019 in the Journal of Family Psychology found that children of trauma survivors are more likely to develop mental health challenges. And this is not only due to biological inheritance, but also behaviors learned from parents and grandparents. And these family dynamics create an environment where stress and hypervigilance are normalized. So if you think about this from a spiritual context, we've just talked about the scientific. In many spiritual traditions, trauma is viewed as karmic inheritance, a call for acknowledgement and healing that runs through the family lines. And generational trauma is thus a lesson waiting to be transformed. And pardon this, I just cut myself this morning, which is why I keep doing that accidentally. But generational trauma is thus a lesson to be transformed and a pattern that once healed releases entirely family lines from entire trauma. Something that may have been seen to be self-evident and continued ends when the scapegoat, the empath, decides enough is enough. Now let's go into this epigenetics and the 7-generation theory a bit. So epigenetics, which is the study of how our environment and behaviors affect gene expression, show that trauma isn't isolated to the person who experiences it. In fact, indigenous wisdom, like the Iroquois Indian 7-generation philosophy, has long suggested that choices impact descendants for 7 generations, a concept that's now supported scientifically. And a 2013 study, and it's a little older, but still relevant, in the Nature and Neuroscience demonstrated that when mice were exposed to the smell of cherry blossoms, for example, and an accompanying shock, their offsprings developed an inherited fear of that same smell, even without the experience of going through that trauma. And this transmission of trauma through sensory associations underscores how powerful and deeply embedded these trauma responses can be. So let's go into the purpose of trauma and how it enables survival and what it means going forward. So while trauma feels like a curse, it initially serves as an adaptive function. It sort of hardwires survival mechanisms into the family system. And this adaptation creates a blueprint for handling threat and adversity. It's a protective force that's passed down through the family. Now, ancient spiritual teachers like those in the Bhagavad Gita describe trauma as a process of purification. A painful yet enlightening experience meant to evolve our understanding and resilience. Do you see? And trauma, once acknowledged and healed, leads us closer to wholeness. So as has been said and I've referenced, trauma is not what happens to us, but what we hold inside in the absence of an empathetic witness, Dr. Gabor Mate. The act of healing allows us to become our own witnesses, transforming trauma into self-awareness and resilience. So, why does the empath often feel called to end generational trauma? Well, empaths possess heightened sensitivity, an ability to feel emotions very deeply, making them acutely aware of the unspoken pains in the family or in families. However, taking on the role of a cycle breaker often means confronting resistance. All these Agent Smiths, this is a reference to the Matrix, facing misunderstanding and often ostracization and isolation. And empathic individuals have increased mirror neuron activity. There's a cell that enables us to experience what others feel. So this unique sensitivity enables empaths to detect and mirror inherited pain, compelling them to address it and heal it. So in psychotherapy, it's understood that empaths can absorb family issues, often become the ones who challenge and change toxic patterns. However, breaking those cycles is nearly impossible, so difficult. And empaths must confront behaviors and beliefs that the family has accepted for generations. Empaths are often seen as what you've probably heard as wounded healers or light bringers. And in spiritual traditions, figures who bear the pain of the past to bring about transformation. So empaths walk in the path of sacrifice, bearing the family's wounds and transforming them through awareness and resilience, you see. Now, how does this change? How does trauma actually end with the empath at the helm? Breaking generational trauma requires methods that reshape the brain's response to stress and triggers and inherited fears. And evidence-based therapies, like working with a licensed therapist or certified coach like myself, and modalities that include things like internal family systems or EMDR, eye movement desensitization, and mindfulness can help individuals process and release these really deeply embedded traumas. And in fact, it's often said that the importance of compassionate self-inquiry, as proposed by Dr. Mate, encourages individuals to reflect on their inherited pain with understanding rather than judgment. That's self-compassion. And this self-compassion is critical in processing the trauma and bringing the journey to healing. So let's talk a little bit as we come to the end of this video, the rewards and pains, or the price of actually sticking up to end these trauma. So breaking the cycle of generational trauma is a challenging and often lonely journey. And empaths may find themselves misunderstood or even isolated from family members who cling to family patterns. Yet by bearing this challenge, empaths like you, like me, and this is my 4-year-old daughter who did this to me a few days ago. She's amazing, Shiloh. And she's still happy to see I still have it. That empaths like you and me lay the groundwork for a new family story, one that's free from inherited pain. So ancient texts like the Bhagavad Gita describe this path as the warrior's journey, a sacred responsibility undertaking to bring healing and compassion into the world. And empaths who take on this work are not only healing themselves, but are transforming their entire family's karmic structure. We also know that from a psychological perspective, breaking family trauma cycles can have lasting benefits. In fact, studies show that the children of parents who engage in trauma healing practices are less likely to develop anxiety and depressive disorders, signaling a profound impact on future generations. So you actually alter what happens for the future and those who come after you when you as an empath step up to end generational trauma. So if this resonates with you, type transform in the comment section or book a free session on my website at innermanage.com. And remember, there's absolutely no one like you. And this video resonates with you, like, share, subscribe, and share with anyone you think might benefit from this. Ultimately, the empath's journey to ending generational trauma is an act of courage, resilience, and transformation. Kudos to you, keep pushing, and remember, there's absolutely no one like you.